If you check in any thesaurus, you'll find a lot of synonyms for the word retarded, but my personal favorite is Velma. If you take it a step further, you'll notice that there's an even better phrase, which happens to have 5 syllables. Velma Season 2. As I was watching this season, I kept thinking to myself that the meta probably couldn't get any worse than it was in Season 1, but it turns out that I was wrong. If I was to draw a graphic compare Season 1 and Season 2, any idiot would be able to see the exponential rise in stupidity and cringe HBO allowed to air on their streaming service. Mindy Kaling managed to outdo herself in that department. It's kinda interesting how she self-inserted herself as Velma, this objectively unwanted, unattractive, and self-righteous person. Even though Mindy has 2 kids and after all these years, she's still hiding the father's identity like a citizen from Alabama hides from their parents the disturbing reality that they want to marry their cousin. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
As much as everyone is defecating on this show right now, I actually have a few positive things to say about it. I'll elaborate on those later. There's not that many, so don't worry I guess. It might shock you though. This season was a handful. The plot is so incoherent and all over the place, you start to question the qualifications of everyone in the writer's room. The writing is synonymous to people who tweet non-stop in the hopes of going viral. This show is the poster child for rage baiting and being a pick-me. If a show could be a pick-me, this would be it. So throughout this season, there's men who are going missing. One of the former cop's brothers shows up in town and he wants justice for his dead sibling. He doesn't like Daphne's parents because he thinks they're incompetent at doing their job, which is interesting because he still thinks it's fashionable to wear jorts. And for whatever reason, Fred has turned a new leaf and he's super religious now. But once Velma tells him how the Catholic Church operates, he's not as interested anymore. That scene actually made me laugh. Anyone shitting on the Catholic Church will always be funny to me. Anyway, so slowly throughout this season, Norville is transitioning into Shaggy. Like he even wears the shirt, does pot, the whole shebang. Shaggy never openly did pot in the series, but you get what I mean. Basically what this season tried to do is take moments and references from the original animated series and try to make a joke out of it. Shaggy now doing weed is a clear note to the countless memes all over the internet that him and his dog were forever higher than the Twin Towers. I thought people were exaggerating when they said how unstructured this season is, but it couldn't be closer than the truth. For whatever reason, Velma's mom turns into Niagara Falls for Fred's dad, which is just odd since Velma at one moment in time was Fred's crush, and Velma is now dating Fred's ex-girlfriend, and Norville was friend-zoned by this Indian girl who he has feelings for, and now it's awkward. Yeah, it's one big mess. This show couldn't even get creative with the plot this season. They basically used the same premise of the first, so in a nutshell, this whole show is centered around gender-based violence, quite literally. I wonder what Mindy Kaling is trying to tell us. Has someone been banging her skull with a hammer or something? If you ever see her at a red carpet event and she's got bruises, at least now we know why. She was crying out for help this entire time. The biggest problem with this series is flipping common tropes and subverting expectations, but not in the best way. For example, Scrappy, we all know Scrappy as Scooby's sidekick and relative, but now towards the end of the season, he's introduced to us and he looks exactly like his name. They did my dog dirty. This is what I imagine a physical manifestation of problems would look like. This show is really good at rage baiting audiences. First of all, the project called Scooby, now Scrappy. It's like the show is doing whatever it takes to piss off everyone who grew up with the original animated series. This season has so many side plots that you really start to wonder what's the point of everything. For instance, towards the end, Fred's mom comes back from the dead and stops her main mission of haunting Norville for killing her just to make Fred become the man. Her words, not mine. But then she gives up that main mission when she learns that her husband is now getting married to this Indian lady. That's kinda a racist agenda, but that's a story for another time. Let me put all of this into perspective so you can fully understand how bizarre the relations in this show are. Velma's dad has a kid with Sophie. Their baby looks like poof from AliExpress, and technically speaking, he never divorced Velma's mom. And now her girlfriend's ex-boyfriend's dad is clapping Velma's mom's cheeks, and the thought of this makes this white preppy boy's mother sick to her core. I would insert a racist joke about how Indians make weddings a big deal and how Mindy Kaling is Indian, but I wouldn't do that because that's what we like to call stereotyping, something which she happens to be very good at. But as for me, I would never make a stereotypical joke about Indians in weddings. Never, ever, ever. Back to Velma. This season was the equivalent of meeting a fine young lady in Thailand. You meet up with her and you're all excited, you get her naked, but then you start to see something you're not supposed to witness. Call it a third leg or whatever, but the happiness you just had is now fleeting. Why, you might ask? Well, for starters, you realize this isn't what you wanted, and secondly, because you realize you're about to get fucked over in more ways than one. Little side tangent here. I like how this season pretty much does a spoof of the Hex Girls, a show that was supposed to be aired and properly developed, that for whatever reason the network discarded it and gave us this season of Velma. Pretty interesting. And what was that scene in episode 9 all about Fred being a real man? Like, he finally stands up to his dead mom and then she says he passed her test. So she basically wanted a kid to have balls and stop being used like a doormat by everyone in this town. And once he does so, Fred and the rest of them watch her descend to hell? I'm not even kidding. HBO would have got away with it if it weren't for these meddling kids, but I doubt any of that matters since this season ended with an implication that there will be more. So there's probably going to be one more season. Hopefully it'll be the last. At the start I said there's some good things about this show. Guess I lied. There's absolutely nothing commendable other than the art style. This show is a solid -4 out of 10. Bye.